This is the Tilta Nucleus Nano II, and this thing is really impressive, so let me show you what it can do. So back in 2017 or 2018, whenever I reviewed the original Nucleus Nano, I was really stoked to have a small, light, wireless follow focus because back then, there wasn't a lot of options. They were all big, heavy motors. And so this thing was meant to work with smaller rigs, so smaller gimbals and smaller photography lenses. And so it was the perfect setup for that. Before I continue, this video is not sponsored. I just want to say that Tilta did provide the Nucleus Nano II for me, and I will be using it on my personal rig because it's actually pretty dang good. But my main issues with the original Nucleus Nano are basically answered with the Nucleus Nano II. So before I get into this nitty gritty, let me tell you about the few changes that I'm actually really happy to see. So the first is that it's powered by USB-C. So not only that, but you can also daisy chain from USB-C to another motor with USB-C. So that's way better than the original old micro USB, which is just such a terrible port. And second, it's way more powerful. So I have a few cinema lenses that the original Nucleus Nano can't move because it doesn't have enough torque. And let me tell you, this little guy has enough punch to pretty much move any of my lenses. And I would almost compare this to my Nucleus M, which is the main follow focus system I've been using for the last 4 years. That said, I do feel like this has a slightly more lag than the Nucleus M on stiffer lenses, but this is a huge improvement over the original Nano. And I also want to mention that I'm using this through USB-C from a V-mount battery. You could throw more voltage at it compared to what I'm using, but I feel like this is going to be a common way that everyone's going to power this. I put this on the most stiff lens I own, which is the Contact Zeiss 85mm f1.4, and even on the lowest torque setting, it handles it no problem, where I know the Nucleus Nano I can't do that. So if you have even harder lenses to drive and you bump the torque up on this, it probably could handle any cinema lens. And by the way, if you haven't watched my video on modding those Contact Zeiss lenses and converting them into cinema lenses, make sure to check that video out because these lenses are amazing and I recommend them if you can find some used ones on eBay. I've shot tons of music videos with them and everyone loves how it looks. Okay, with that out of the way, let's jump into the new Fizz hand unit because Tilta's added a bunch of completely different touch screen UI stuff, and this is nothing like anything else that they have. So it kind of looks a little confusing at first, but after you watch this video, I'm sure it's going to make sense and you're going to be like, dang man, that's actually really awesome. Good job, Tilta. Okay, when you turn it on, this is your home screen. When you swipe over, this is going to show your pre-calibrated lenses. Swipe one more time, this is going to show your camera control settings if you have it set up to control a camera. Now swiping back to the home screen, as you can see our focus and distance markers. You have your zoom range as well as your iris range, and that's if you have extra motors set up. Swiping up, you can see we've got settings, system settings, motor settings, as well as connection settings. So in the main settings, this is where you're going to mainly set up the Fizz controller. So this is where you've got your vibration intensity, your brightness or dimness of the display, and a lot of other little things like calibrating the knob for focus, iris, or zoom. Now in system settings, a lot of these things could have just been in the regular settings, like the ability to actually rotate the screen and do a factory reset and things like that. But for whatever reason, this isn't its own page. This is also where you would update the firmware. So jumping over to the motor settings, this is where you're going to spend most of your time. This is how you can adjust your calibration, your torque, as well as sensitivity and direction of that motor. So you can set this for zoom, iris, or aperture, and then you can assign it a color. That way you can know which motor it is. Now to initiate an auto calibration, all you have to do is hold down the function button for 3 seconds and then it'll automatically calibrate your in and out points. Now if you don't have hard stops on your lens, you'll have to manually set these up and it's not that hard to do. Now if you want to set repeatable in and out points or 1 and 2 markers, all you have to do is tap the function button where you set your focus point at, and then you can go back and add more. But if you want to delete these, just hover over top of that actual marker and then double click the function button and it'll remove that marker. Now this controller has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and you should be able to connect to a camera. As you can see, my A7 IV showed up, but it wouldn't connect. But anyway, must be a firmware problem, but you can change your camera settings remotely with this controller, which is pretty cool. It only works on a few cameras and I'll list those later, which ones are actually compatible as of right now. But I think there'll be a firmware update that'll make this better. Now, if you need to sync a motor, you can double click the button on the motor. It's going to start flashing and then go over your connection settings to 2.4G, then go to channels. And then when you're in your channels and you go to search, it should actually show up in your device list and you can select that and it'll be synced up. Now you can color code these motors. I've got mine set to purple. That way you can know which motor set up for zoom, iris, or aperture. So the other day I reversed roles with Joe, who is usually my first AC, and I first AC'd for him. So this was pretty cool. We shot a music video and I wanted to see how this thing would perform. So I wanted to be the first AC to see how it holds up on a real shoot. I had no issues with range. This thing was awesome. All the calibration stuff was awesome. That said, I was in the same building with him, so I don't know if you went into like a chase car or between a bunch of walls whether you'd have any issues, but honestly I didn't have any issues with range, and I've never really had any issues with range on any of Tilta's stuff. I also love the big bright screen on this and being able to mark your 1s and 2s. You could even add more markers and you have a little vibration when you hit that. And also having all of your lenses pre-programmed the night before is amazing, because then you don't have to calibrate them on set. You can literally change the lens, choose it on here, and it's already preset for that. So let me show you how to do that. Before you add your own custom lens, you need to make sure that you did your auto calibration, so that's set ahead of time. Then you can go in and add your lens. Now you can access this from 2 different ways, but I did it through the system settings. You go to lens, user lens, add lens. And then in here it's pretty self-explanatory. You type in the lens manufacturer, then you type in the lens series. So in this case we're using the DZO Vespids, and then from there you type in the focal length, and then you can add a few more options like your minimum focus distance and things like that. You hit confirm, and then it's saved in there. Now you can choose your lens that you've added. So I click on the DZO, the controller is going to reset. You're going to see the lens actually move, matching itself up with where the knob is on the controller, and then you'll have your in and out points perfectly set with that lens. I'm happy they improved the motor torque too, so now I can use some of my older, stiffer vintage lenses or even some bigger cinema glass, and I'm happy they didn't make the motor that much bigger. So the motor is nice and small still. It's definitely smaller than the Nucleus M, but it's close in power, which is really nice. And I also love that they added the little knob on the side of the motor, so you can actually twist that knob and manually focus the lens if your first AC is asleep and you need to check focus. Also, I really like that you can save lens calibrations quickly and then choose the lens after a lens swap without needing to calibrate each time, which is way more efficient on set when time is money. It's also cool that it has Bluetooth control for most cameras, most Sony cameras and Blackmagic cameras. You still need a start-stop cable for some other cinema cameras, but if you want to trigger record from the hand unit, it's pretty cool. You can do that on some of these cameras. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get it to pair, even though I tried a million times. I'm just going to blame early firmware, and I'm sure this will be fixed in an update. So the only thing I wish they would have changed is that they would have put a removable battery in the hand unit, because the original Nano has a removable battery, and if it dies, you can just swap it and keep going. Where on this, it has a built-in battery, and if it dies, you have to plug in a USB power bank to keep it going, because you're only going to get around 8 hours on set. That's what I found with a full charge. It would have been nice if it could last 12 hours, and maybe it would if you turned the screen brightness down and turned off Bluetooth and stuff, but most days on set are like 12 to 14 hours, and this will not make it the full time. All in all, this is an awesome product, and I know that a lot of people watching this channel probably don't care about this type of thing because I don't cover a lot of cinema stuff. But for those of you that are looking to upgrade from the Nano to the Nano II, this is awesome. Or even add to your current system, because I think you can link the older motors to this hand unit, so it's kind of all backwards compatible. But yeah, if you're looking to just get a new wireless follow focus system, I highly recommend this over the Nucleus M, unless you know you need that extra torque and some less lag on stiffer lenses. But that'll save you almost half as much money, because this comes in at $300 US. And yeah, that's it. Thanks to Tilta for sending this out to me to check out and review. Also, thanks to you guys for watching. Everything used in today's video will be linked in the description. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you dislike this video, give it a thumbs down twice. Don't forget to hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Original Nucleus Nano, Nucleus, original blah blah booby blah. 2. Let's talk about it. Why do I have my AirPods in? Did I have my AirPods in the intro? Well, they're out now.